system go.
Welcome to JCU Human Anatomy Laboratories. Our anatomy teaching areas include the Townsville Wet Lab, Reef Lab Rooms and the Cairns Anatomy Lab. Because these areas are designated labs, there are rules you must comply with to be allowed to use them, as well as moral obligations associated with the use of the Anatomy Wet Lab. These rules and obligations are outlined in this induction video. After viewing, you will sign to say that you have understood and you will comply with these requirements. The evacuation procedure is to leave by the nearest exit and meet in the designated assembly area outside. In Townsville, this means to leave by the nearest stairwell and meet at the green assembly point sign in the car park outside the anatomy building. In Cairns, the assembly point is in the car park at the western end of the dentistry building. Please follow staff directions at all times. Users of the laboratories must not take in bags or food or drink of any kind. Water coolers are provided in the buildings and you may leave the lab to have a quick snack if required. Photography and electronic devices are prohibited in the wet labs and photography is prohibited in the reef lab. You may not at any time bring in friends or family who are not enrolled in your course. To enter any of the labs, you must wear fully enclosed shoes. To use the wet labs, you must wear a lab coat and tie back long hair. Inside the anatomy labs, you will encounter cadaveric material that has been donated by the people who lived in our region through the Human Bequest Program and for the purpose of education. Our donors believe that society benefits through having well-trained health professionals working within the local community. We encourage active participation in practical classes, but insist that appropriate behavior and respect for donors is demonstrated at all times. If you know anyone who has been a donor in our bequest program, please notify staff.
Pete, are you alright?
For some people, seeing human cadavers can have unexpected consequences. To avoid fainting, please ensure that you are fully hydrated before you come into the lab. If you experience any lightheadedness or illness at any time in the lab, please notify a staff member immediately and ask fellow students to escort you from the lab. Our cadaveric tissue is embalmed with a solution containing a low level of formalin and is stored in a solution that contains no formalin. The health risks associated with formalin have not been determined, but if you are pregnant, planning to become pregnant, or suspect that you might be pregnant, please speak to our staff to discuss your options for continuing the practical part of your course.
Maybe not.
In the unlikely event of prosection material or liquid contacting your eyes, immediately notify a staff member and use the Eyewash station located on the back wall of the lab to rinse your eyes. The Eyewash is activated by pushing on the lever at the side of the basin.
Okay, that's good.
Whilst in the wet labs, please observe good hygiene practices. Avoid putting anything in your mouth, including chewing gum.
Okay guys, come and have a look at this one
Use
now.
the provided gloves whenever you are handling wet specimens. We only provide nitrile gloves, which are suitable for people with latex allergies. When you're using skeletons, bones, models, or the reference books, you must not wear gloves. When you have finished in the wet labs, please dispose of your gloves in the yellow clinical waste bins. These are located inside the door to the lab. The general waste bins in the hand washing area are for paper and general waste only. If contaminated by gloves, the entire contents of the bin have to go to clinical waste to be incinerated. You may not remove books, models, or specimens from the labs at any time. The hardest lab rule for Townsville students to remember is that despite the carpet, the Reef Lab is a designated laboratory. When you use the Reef Lab, you will not need a lab coat or gloves, and you may use your computer or tablet. However, you must still wear closed-in shoes and leave all food and drink outside. So remember, when using the anatomy laboratories in Townsville and Cairns, the use of the labs entails responsibilities for you and is not a right of enrolment.
It's very fascinating.
Food and drink, including chewing gum and water, are not permitted in any of the labs. Equipment with photographic capabilities is not permitted in the wet labs. You must wear fully enclosed shoes in all the labs and must wear a lab coat and have long hair tied back in the wet labs. Gloves are provided for use with wet specimens only and are to be disposed of only in the yellow clinical waste bins. All learning material supplied in the lab is to remain in the lab. If you feel unwell or have any other concerns, consult a staff member. You must comply with staff directions at all times. We wish you well in your use of the JCU Anatomy Laboratories and success in your studies.